Alright, for a hot minute there, I broke Tailwind because, as I suspected, you're supposed to put the font family in the extend object. But Tailwind was very it just told the whole thing explodes. So I guess if you try to do something out of the ordinary, it just does not enjoy that. And that's very interesting. But anyway, Google Fonts. So we're going to try and put it back in here and see. I think TSX needs to wrapper. So the font body. Yeah. Boom. I think this is looks different. So yeah, pretty sure it's font body. Yeah, there we go. Font body, font on display. Okay, so that is the main text. Now for the whole page. So your base font should always be the default sort of textual font, and then special places that need their own font, like the header. We'll use Jura, which looks pretty nice. And that should be similar to my Figma. This. So, okay, maybe not. Let's see. Oh yeah, I'm using Josephine. And I guess I decided not to pull it in. I'm confusing the audience now, but Josephine is here. We should add Josephine. Okay, so now there's too many fonts, but you know what? It's okay. We'll reduce once we figure out what we want. And these videos are going to be super loose in the sense of the design might totally change by the last video, and that's totally fine. So actually there's two display fonts because I actually am using Jura here, but not for my own name. Which, I don't know, I think I was just kind of thinking it just looked too generic. So, we'll see. So maybe the special display is Jura, and then special is now this one. And yeah, of course, eventually you should specify. Come on, compile with problems. Okay, what? Come on. Unexpected. Where? I don't know. What? This doesn't make any sense. Maybe I have to reset. So I'm slowly discovering why nobody recommends Create React App anymore, because it just doesn't really handle issues when the build breaks. so we'll see. We'll see if I need to like reboot this whole repo under a different thing. It's kind of font media thin. Actually, I think thin regular. Huh. I think I'm choosing thin, but and this is like interesting design thing I always point out to designers, especially when they send me stuff is to review, is like the thin font in Figma or Adobe is never the real thin in the browser, because the browser is kind of literally interpreting 1 pixel to mean 1 pixel, especially if that's the thin font. So this is a sort of anti-aliased, upscale thin, relative to, I guess, whatever this app is doing. So, which is funny because 1 pixel line is 1 pixel line, but for fonts it's not the same. I think a lot of that is just like it's rendering thing, and there's probably other reasons, and I don't really have exact answer, but that is always often true, that the types, the weights of the fonts never line up in real life. Of course, if we were to, for example, zoom in on this web page, now you can kind of see, oh, the thin font looks kind of thicker actually, so it's not like one pixel, right? So there's some like relative scaling always happening, and that kind of makes sense and doesn't. It's kind of inherent to web browsers that there's like a separate rendering thing happening. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it there because I'm not an expert on that, on why that is, but cool. All right, so, and now I'm already seeing like maybe I will want to choose the thicker font, but we'll leave it for now. I'm seeing some kind of spacing things here that I want to clean up. The size of things are not the same. Looks like I show the home button here, but not here. So let's just kind of like clean that up. And here's an old project that I was just looking at. So I want to give me some space. Probably nav slider is going to, and this is where sometimes we cheat as developers. We'll just throw in like, okay, maybe we'll just give this child component its own spacing, just because, even though it's clearly sort of a parent problem, but this is my personal site, so I'm not super like, we gotta have it. Yeah. Perfect. So there's that. Cool. I think I'll leave the spacing for now. It doesn't have to be super perfect. Just kind of getting the gist right now. Cool. All right, and this is probably more like 34, 35. I never really know what the numbering system is. I don't understand it with Tailwind, so it's pretty random in my opinion. Okay, so now we have this other part of the page, which is sort of the beginning of the content. So let's kind of start working on that, and then that'll be the end of this part of the video. So let's look at, okay, close everything out because I'm going crazy. And we're looking at the home page and homes. Home right now is just kind of just a barren wasteland. Let's use a P paragraph and kind of think about this. So I'm still kind of thinking about how the elements are going to float to the left, and in a way each one of these columns, it's sort of its own pane of content. So I don't have the words exactly right now of how all this will come about, but essentially these should all somewhat equal each other and scale with each other, and there shouldn't be sort of like right now these look totally different, like in totally different spatial lands, and I'm already seeing that, you know, P20, I mean, that's huge. It's like the M's are like out of this world. So, you know, once we get to like looking at mobile responsive, this might be unwieldy, but for now I'm laying it out, and I'll kind of go back and look at how I'm going to fiddle with it, which seems like really, you know, oh, why wouldn't you just build it right the first time? And I'm like, web development, unfortunately, is often never perfectly built the first time. It's just not inherent to what it is, and that's my hot take on it. Just doing some like little layout here. Like this is a flex. I'm gonna like kind of call out this, you know, little box border. Black, blue. Oh man, Tailwind. Yeah, see, it's like, how do you do anything? I don't know. Well, this is, okay, not great, but justify center, because we want things to be lined up. And already I'm kind of not really sure about this base font, because I'm doing a lot of like thin stuff. So we'll see. And then this is so with like Tailwind, kind of never quite sure. So like I've declared colors, but there's also like a philosophy that maybe you should just like semantically call them out, so there'd be like text and like text secondary, stuff like that. But then it's like you're kind of duplicating your color library at the same time, because then I would just be like color library gray or whatever my color is, even though I've already called it out. So just some things to point out. And of course I want to take over all the colors too, so I typically don't let it yeah, I typically try to take over everything. So it's like text, okay, actually wrapper text. See, then it would become text, which is like kind of weird, right? So often what we would do is actually give it a name. Maybe like this is a little more understanding to differentiate it. All right. Oh, so secondary text. Oh, not great. What is this color? Now I like Montserrat, so it's looking like I might have to switch it. Okay, I have these little kind of things here, which will serve as sort of like visual elements. It's sort of, I guess it's like an arrow of sorts, or it's functional as much as it is like just a visual, like fun to have thing. You know, it's like in Star Trek, all the interfaces have certain little like symbology that makes them look like whatever they are, Star Trek-y, and other sci-fi series as well. There's always like some visual elements that are like totally superfluous, but are there just to like make you feel like somebody branded it one day. And you know, even in Apple's UI, there's always like little things that you're like, that's why it's an Apple, because it has the little like Apple icon or something or whatever. So we're gonna call, I don't have a great name. This is probably Tab Arrow, which is like probably the worst name. And I also might be redundantly having too much folder, like, yeah, don't worry, man. The joy and bane of TypeScript is constantly breaking TypeScript. In this, I'm also going to make all these elements real, because I also think they're going to move around and like do things, and maybe they'll pulse or like grow or something. So we'll have kind of like a little playground for them, and then we'll have the two arrows be the little symbols, or the little things. Can't talk. Tab arrow, and let me add it so y'all know what you're looking at. Oops. Whoops. Where is it? Height full. Actually, one is 1 width h1 width full. I really gotta create like a Tailwind thing. Okay, try not to break. So I think spacing is what it's called, and then we can just call it line. That's 1 pixel, right? Oop. Wow, it just works. That's what I want to see. All right, where else did I declare 1 pixel? Boom. All right, and then this is such a misnomer, because I want this thing to sort of like float at the top. So I actually, It's like I need to position, absolute position, a relative positioned element, which might be overkill, but I think it's fine, and people's browsers will be fine with it. So here's a trick. So, oops. Oh, relative. So right now, kind of where it is, well, it's all centered, but it's also following the height of this element. So you just add padding to quote unquote move this element over, and everything shrinks proportionally with it. And then this probably doesn't have to be that big. We'll see. Oh, I see. It's like following. See, and this is where like everyone falls into like, where should elements really be placed under, and does it make sense? Like, where they go? Does it make sense? Because to achieve kind of these fun visual things, it's sort of like you're always like, where do I nest things? You know, who's the actual parent? And like, does this element live with both of these elements, or does it just live with the text? Because really it just lives with the text. And that's kind of it. Oh, and I see there's a little bit of offset. So in my little tab arrow, I'm gonna offset it a little. Height line, so like left 2 maybe. Left 2, top 2. Yeah, it's alright. Maybe not that big. There. Not super sold. Close enough. Cool, you get a little thing. So imagine if this was pulsing. So if you did like animate pulse, you know, you could see it's like glowing. You know, kind of little details like that, they make the difference, but we'll see. And that was like a lot of time spent just to create these little things, and that's web development for you. All right, I'm gonna quickly just get this blog pushed out here, and then we can wrap it up. So okay, so I'm gonna cheat. Right now I have my blog posts as fake JSON data. And I do this a lot where I'll have mock data essentially of API stuff that I'm going to use. I tend to design first and then build the infrastructure later, because sometimes your designs actually matter first as the architectural decisions of React before you even look at data, because you might realize that, you know, I think ultimately I might actually want to create a context to load the blog posts, and not, for example, do it in the parent, right? Because I think like a tutorial would be like, oh, in like our app TSX, we're gonna like load the data here and pass it through to everyone. But in reality, I push data towards the end, which seems counterintuitive, but has served me well. All right, so posts from data, post JSON, and we're gonna create a new section down here with posts and post. Oops. should probably roll a new component, but maybe right now we don't have to do that. I'm gonna just do the post title for now. And it always hates me. Type rendered strings, that's how I React node. Why are you complaining? Rendered string. What? Oh, okay. All right. So what renders on type? Whoa, that's weird. All right, let's look at our posts. So this is gonna be a WordPress site that I'm stealing from, which is my own. Title rendered, title dot rendered. Okay. So there's just the blog posts, and this looks like the title. So accessibility, let's give it like an H2. Technically this is a list. I say that hesitantly. I think a lot of screen readers are kind of like smart enough to essentially ignore the semantics and just go straight for like what makes the most sense, because I think so many sites now don't even care. And so there's sort of this weird arms race with like screen readers. Like the Apple screen reader is very intelligent. It just like every element is just given weight. Like it doesn't, it knows that most sites are just kind of a collage of divs, and it does a great job of interpreting things when you hover over or with your finger, and it does a great job of reading things. And and really at the end of the day, ARIA labels, ARIA tags are really what make the difference. Because I have done plenty of sites where, I used every semantic tag that you're supposed to, and didn't really matter, or like it mattered, it didn't really make a difference. It was like they're all divs really at the end of the day. And yeah, so anyway, hot take. And let's have the post description. Thank God Tailwind is smart enough to tell me what does exist then. Type link. Oh, I just look at it, right? Content excerpt rendered. Okay. This is gonna be small, probably. And then each one, we need spacing because it's a little wild. Class name, text large. Everything's thin. Uh-oh. I thought this, why would the rendered version have HTML in it? So we'll get to that in a future ticket. WordPress is, PHP land is very different when it comes to things. I don't really want to know. Well, let me think about it. What to do. Okay, so first thing I'm noticing as I'm doing this is obviously the page is in viewport height mode. So either, and then I want to do different scrolling. So I think for now I'm just going to make this area scrollable, but we'll have to explore like how to do that. What's the best way to do that? Because I also don't want ugly scroll bars everywhere. So cool. Cool. Now we kind of have this like iPad-ish style website. In my layout here, I'm assuming I'm trying to do this fancy thing where I overlay them with like images. Let me add blog. Maybe these are actually H3s. Accessibility. I think I'm using font special here. Nope. Font, I'm using display font. And see, I already can tell like I want to use a typography class so I don't have to like essentially dictate every single like time I have a certain font show up. So I might do that in the next section. Text, secondary text, and let's do extra small. And MT2 or 3 and MY4, maybe MY6. And maybe I'm just gonna like call out some of this stuff right now. So again, I'm kind of thinking about how I'm gonna fake out this. See, it kind of fades out of the where this lines up. It fades to the left of it, and so again, it's like I'm gonna have to fake it where this blog is also sort of padded or indented, so that it looks like, you know, it's all lined up. And like I'm, you know, as a personal site, trying to kind of demonstrate, you know, a thing you're demonstrating, or you could demonstrate, is like how adept are you at lining up elements, and what does that mean, and sort of like spatial awareness of design is important. And so, you know, less is more, but like details matter kind of thing. And so that's kind of what this like next version of my site is really about, is trying to like do that. So okay, we'll pause it there. This looks fairly equivalent for now, and we'll deep dive more things as we go on. Thanks. Roll app, and this should be blog. No. Hello. Great. Took a long time to show how to set up a title. And I'm already seeing that blog roll. Doesn't need to have the actual title of the element. So then in app, in our home, there's not even a home page. Oh, my name is supposed to be the home link, so let's probably add that. Link to home. There. And then the actual like home page would have there's probably an option to like just auto import everything and not have to like specify, but that's fine. Okay. Where's typography? So actually we know that I was using the font special, I think. No, font special is for my name, font display. And then I think, oh my gosh, which is the word? Font display. So basically for all the H1s, we're doing the Jura font. And you know, it's funny because it's like heading 1, 2, 3. I don't know, Tailwind kind of like messes with me because it kind of already defines like text hierarchy based on its sizes for text like large, medium, small, and obviously like large and XL up would mostly be headings, but in some cases designers are like, no, an H1 is actually going to be this small thing because we're in like modern devs land design, so like, you know, traditionally this would probably be like humongous if you were to just go basic, you know, hierarchy, right? This should be bigger than this because it's like the parent, but we kind of implicitly know that this is like subtly calling out what this content is below it. Okay, we're talking about the blog. So blog page needs some padding. This is where like probably the content area needs its own wrapper. Like this is a content area, I guess, and then this is again used to be the header, but is now a sidebar. And but I didn't add the link. So the thing is like actually I'm saying that the different main content areas could have different padding and therefore and look different. They don't all have to like conform to, you know, the standard thing, right? And already you can see like the difference between these two Figmas is like the blog area's padding is a little bit different. And I feel like that makes your site more interesting because then people are like, oh, this is a little different than the previous one. You know, it's kind of delightful to see something change. Oh, it needs to scroll. So yeah, I think you need to give it height full in order clearly. Okay, yeah, it's ugly, but I gotta deal with these sidebars are gonna start killing us very soon. Yeah, so you get a little like, ooh, interesting, you know, interesting. And then my philosophy for like this new UI is just kind of playing around with our ideas of like, you know, because a lot of design right now is corporate, and that's fine. It just kind of is what it like. There's web trends all the time. I'm not gonna crap on it because I do like the sort of corporate look where everything is very standardized and like, you know. But I like going back to old school days where like we kind of were able to do different things, play around with spacing, you know, defy expectations. So for your portfolio, that might be useful, assuming you like that's kind of your thing. I mean, you kind of also have to speak to it. You can't just be like, yeah, I'm defying trends because I saw someone on YouTube do it or whatever. Like you're making it, you know, interesting. And then, you know, when we go to mobile design, mobile responsive, eventually, like, you know, I might even mess with the mobile version. It might not be traditionally like everything scrolls up and down because now I'm already seeing like how cool this thing is kind of, you know, responding by virtue of just like how things have been laid out and things kind of change. And, you know, who knows, maybe I might do a left-right mobile. But anyway, continuing on, we need these blog links to be clickable. and we need to navigate to them. So I'm going to pause for a second here.